All right, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel, and today we're looking at some of the stuff that I have recently shot. We're going to decide, was it good, was it bad, what were the major mistakes that we made, and what would we change? Well, we wouldn't change anything because we've already shot it and there's no going back. Let's get into it. What do I have to tell you about this particular job? Well, I think we're going to do a few videos on this job, so get ready for more of this stuff. But what we are doing is a man. He has depression. Depression comes to him in the form of a tiny black puppy. So immediately you're thinking, puppy on set, going to be a nightmare. Going to be a nightmare for filming. Going to be really fun to have a puppy on the set, but it's going to be challenging. We're going to talk about some of those issues. Big thing here is we've got, I think all up, I think there was 49 shots in the boards. We've got 2 days to do those. So we're probably going to look at a few different scenes from this job. And the first one that we're going to look at is this exterior. We've got this gentleman is going to come up to his house, right? Guy's going to come up to his house. And when he opens the door, guess who's going to follow him? Unbeknownst to him, it's going to be a little black puppy. Guess what that black puppy is going to represent? Depression. Yes, you nailed it. We're off to a fun start, no doubt about it. So what we're going to do, instead of like I have done in the past, where I've shown you the storyboards, that's a little bit of a cheat, because then you know exactly where we stood on the location and on the tech scouts. And then you say, well, obviously that's the spot where you would stand, right? If you wanted to get something that was halfway decent, that's where you would stand. That's because we already made the decisions for you. The true test here is if you're looking at the location photos that you get given, and I'm going to give you the brief. What would you do? Would you do it any different than me? And I'm going to walk you through what I think, or why we made the decisions that we made, or at least why I was somewhat a part of that decision. Really, it's the director in the end, especially in the commercial world, that makes the majority of those decisions. But we're going to talk about what some of the pros and what some of the cons were. So the brief is, we've got a guy, we've got a puppy. The puppy has to sneak into the house behind this guy. In he walks. He's going to walk into this house. This is actually the back door to the main house that we were shooting at. We only shot at one location the entire 2 days. So we had to make use. The front door wasn't great. The back door is kind of interesting, right? Because it's got these stairs. There's a couple of different angles that we can use. There's some interest here. I will lead with, it doesn't face the best direction. As in this, I believe, is southeast. Okay, southeast. So what that means is that the sun is going to come up over here, and then it's going to loop around this way and set over here. So it's going to be, well, in the morning, it's going to be backlit this way, which means all of this area in front of the house is going to be shaded. Then it's going to come around the front, and then it's all going to be front lit all the way until sunset. Okay, it's going to be front lit the entire time. The sun never gets around to this side of the building over here. So this wall is going to get light. I think this frame is probably from about, I'm going to guess about 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Okay, so that gives you the angle here. Normally, what you would want is you would want the sun going back here and lighting towards camera. Okay, we don't have that luxury. Also, like I mentioned before, something to keep in the back of your mind here is that we are shooting on this particular day, which is day 1. We had 22 shots to get through, and I think about 5 different setups. So a number of setups, lots of moving pieces. Every single setup is probably not going to get its ideal time. So we're going to have to move some pieces around to figure out, okay, what is manageable, what's not, what's of interest, what isn't. I've given away the choice that we made here. This is the time that we had to do, I think all up it was 4, maybe 5 shots that we had out here to make this little sequence work. So what is that, 2 hours? 2 hours to get it done. Now, you'll see immediately we chose, what is that, 3:45 to 5:45. Sunset would be about, I'm going to say 6:15, right, at the time of day that we ended up shooting this commercial. So normally what you would do is you want to get the sun lower and lower in the sky on the wider shots. And everything in tight you want to do earlier during the day because you can affect the overall image because there's much less real estate on the close-up stuff. You want to do that at the worst time of day because you can manage it a little bit better. If you shoot the wide at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, that pretty much hoses you for all of the looks going forward because you want to make it match a little bit. It doesn't have to match perfectly. Why do I have things on my teeth? So that's the idea, right? You don't want to, what is going on with my teeth here? Anyway, you do not want to shoot the good stuff earlier in the day. That's just rule of thumb. So we got guy walking in here, and he walked, doop, 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 and he's going to go to this door over here, which is this door. Okay, now we have to make a little sequence out of it. Where, if you were looking at this particular frame, where is the best depth here? Is it this little door section here? Right? Is it this little tiny little area? Or is it this nice big long area up here? Huh? Which one is it? The nice big long area or the little tiny short little shitty bit? It's the nice big long area. So we want to play everything up here on this line. And of course the approach, we're going to have to figure out something to do. Okay? But the reason that we scheduled it this late in the day is because all of the stuff, all of the wide that we're going to do and all the stuff looking at the house, we want it to be low raking sun. Because we can make low raking sun up here for the rest of the coverage, we can make that in the middle of the day or a little bit later in the day. But we don't want it to be absolutely sunset because although like on a montage ad, yes, you would want him walking up here at magic hour and maybe you want a little glow from all of the windows and he walks up here with his grocery shopping and it's all beautiful, except we have to do 5 shots, okay? And there's a puppy, which means we are definitely going into overtime, right? Not something that you want to cram into 15 minutes. So that's the brief. Now let's go to what we end up with the storyboards. So we're going to walk behind Guy. He's got his groceries. So we're going to look directly at the house. We're going to go punch out wider to a frame just to show that, yes, this is actually the backyard. In comes the puppy as the guy is opening the door. Remember I said we wanted to take advantage of the length there. We didn't want to be in that little corner looking this way towards the door. We want to see him open the door and we want to see puppy sneak in as happens here in this frame. Okay, we also need a shot of puppy standalone as he scampers towards us. And then we've got this hallway shot that we're going to talk about, which is next in the edit, but was actually on a completely, well, it was on the second day instead of the first day, like this stuff. So really, we've got 1, 2, 3, and that one's 3, so 4. We've got 4 setups to get through. We've got 2 hours to do it in. Unluckily for us, the weather changed completely from this shot, which was the first in the boards, to this shot. Weather changed completely, plus this shot. So it just went all over the place. Exactly what you wouldn't want to happen ended up happening, which is we had overcast for a minute, and then we had really, really, really bright sun and really bright afternoon sun. So we're going to see exactly how we dealt with that. But just looking at the boards, like what would we do? What were we hoping for from our, what would it have been, 545 wide shot? Right, we're hoping for low raking sun across here, shadows, so that we do have a little bit of contrast. You know, even though it wasn't going to be backlit, like coming towards the camera this way, I'd take side light over completely flat. If you do this in the morning when the sun is over here and all of this is in shadow, then it's going to be one level. One level is not good. There's very little interest in there. It also gets really, really dark underneath these overhangs. It's going to be depressing. And what will end up happening is that when they see it in the grade, they will raise up the flat bad area and it's just going to mud out the entire image. It's not going to be a good look. Here, even here, like just imagine if we had a little bit of sun here, like a raking sun across or just a highlight rather than completely shadow with like, there's not an opportunity for us to, especially with the time that we had dedicated to the scene, to get out there and like add our own splashes of color. Where are we going to add color contrast here? Where are we going to add light contrast? The only places we could do it is, like I said, if on the wide shot, we played it at sunset and we were able to pop some level through the windows and through the doors and maybe add like a prac out there. So yeah, then it makes sense. But we can't make this shot and this shot look like sunset. It's just too, I mean, you can do it. It's just too big of a setup. And already if you're working backwards from here, right, there's always other schedule constraints. If we have 22 shots in the day, maybe we have to start at, I don't know, 6 a.m. So that means we have to wrap at 6 p.m. So now it gets, all of a sudden it gets tricky, as in, yeah, we could light this shot up and do it at nighttime, make it look like sunset, but the crew, the gear, the time it's actually going to take during the day in terms of overtime, it just gets too much. So sacrifices must be made. So we choose the lesser of two evils. Do you want it flat in the morning or do you want a chance of shape in the afternoon? And we vote chance of shape in the afternoon. So let's now look at our results here. We're going to bump out. Where are we? Okay. So for some reason in the edit, they scrapped the wide. So we only have these 4 shots that we're going to be looking at. We've got our approach shot, which you can see we didn't get any sun. In fact, here we got completely overcast. Here we got sun almost out of the sky. Here we got full sun. Here we got no sun. Okay, so this is that weather change. And you're like, well, Patrick, it doesn't look like it's that big of a difference. Yeah, that's the idea behind lighting on the run and having a grade. Okay, this is what it gets you. It sort of feels like it's the same. I will tell you, it's not the same at all, and a whole bunch of different solutions were needed so that it felt like we were somewhere in the world. Let's talk about, in order, what we're doing here. The approach shot, this is the only moving shot, I think, of the entire ad. Everything else is just on head and legs. And if you have listened to the podcast, you will know that I am anti-head and legs. I am very much pro, if the camera's going to be steady, to just put it on the dolly. You can see from this house and just how fast we were moving, it actually wasn't. It's an old house. We couldn't fit the dolly in there in every single room that we wanted. So we ended up actually being on head and legs, which is incredibly limiting, because every time you want to move the camera an inch up or down, it takes, 60 seconds. And you're like, well, 60 seconds, that's not that bad. We're doing 22 shots. If you're moving the thing 5 times after you set it up for every single shot, times 60 seconds to do that, that's your entire day, moving the head and legs while 40 crew members are all sitting around because you didn't want to just put it on the pneumatic dolly. Like we're talking crazy talk here. Anyway, so this is actually on the head and legs. This is our only moving shot. And you can see, like, what are we going for here? Why did we choose this angle? Because, he could have approached from over here. He could have approached from a little bit flatter on this way. Why along the wall here? Because we have all this depth. We can push past all of this stuff. Okay, and there's nice lines up there, different angles, things like that. You notice that we didn't put anything in the windows, right? Because it's supposed to be full sun out. It's not full sun. And we don't have enough time to go in there and plant pracs in every single little area. So what is the lighting here? Well, we've gone from, thinking it's going to be sunshine, to completely overcast. What do? You take a 20 by 12 neg and you put it all the way along the part that isn't the house. Like, that actually might be the neg there. I think you might see that. Let's go, if we can. Right there. That is probably the neg in the bottom right-hand corner of the image there. So you're like, well, it doesn't feel like there's neg, right? It doesn't feel like there's not a whole lot of darkness here. But there is. Man, there's a whole lot. All of this shape on his body, all of this darkness here, all of this taken away here, this is all because we have a giant 20 by 12 of neg up on this side. And it is as close as you can possibly get. Not only that, it's not straight down the line, right? It's like a V formation. So as we push in at the start of the move, it's a lot denser. And then as it gets out to the wider shots, we shot this on the Mini LF with some Tribe lenses, the black wings, and wide open all the time wide open. Even though you're on full frame, it just looks better. Tribe's at that T-stop, what is it, T2? They look their best there, I think. They have all of the funk. You can see it up here. I don't know how much they've exaggerated it in the grade, but there's quite a bit of funk in the corner of the lenses, which is nice. That's what we're going for, right? We don't want it to look like real life. Why? Real life sucks. That's what you're doing now. Now is real life. Is it good? No. Does it look nice? No. You don't want it to look like that. Anyway, so when in overcast, get as much neg in as you can. And you say, well, why didn't you put in an overhead neg? I would have loved to. We didn't have the time or the equipment or the crew or anything like that to do it. So what did we do? We did maximum neg that we could. Okay, and that's this V formation of a 20 by 12. And then what are we exposing for? Well, we're trying to make the windows, basically, this covered area, not too far down. And why not too far down? Because we're going to have to go up there on the very next setup, which is actually before this, right? We shot this last. We've already shot all this stuff up here. And I know that we don't want to make it too dark up there by making this stuff too bright, right? And we don't have any tools or any instruments to actually make it brighter up there. So we have to do this through overall exposure. Because when we're up there, guess what? We're going to want to see what we're doing up there. And that's where we come to, actually, let's zoom out a little bit. We come to this shot, which was the very first shot that we did. So actually, let's do this one. So this is my favorite shot here. And again, you see, this is why we're using all of the depth. Over here in the actual location, which you can't see, is, come over here. Just here, there's a door, right? This is a room inside the house. There's another door over here that we could have used for the back door, but we've opened this up so that we have an even longer runway. So that puts us on an even longer lens, which means we're not seeing all of the stuff over here. We're making a lot more of this leading line here. It's chucking as much stuff in the frame as you can. All of this, obviously that's not there on the day. We, along with art department and production design, like you're filling all of this in to make it feel lived in. And then you've got the camera basically on the ground to make as much out of this as we can. And we haven't even talked about the fact that this is going to be a dark and depressing ad, right? That's the whole point. We want it moody and down. And we have a black, jet black puppy that we are going to want to see in these very moody scenes. This is the highest key scene that we do, this outside stuff. Once we go inside the house, it gets really darkened down. And we've got an all black puppy, right? This is a very large challenge. Anyway, so here, what are we doing to create any sort of shape? Well, just out of frame here, that same 20 by 12 that we used for the walk, that's already set up for the walk. We know we're going to use it then. So now we're just bringing it right to the edge of frame to do what? To create this pool of darkness. Like this, see this little gap here? That's real daylight. That's real ambient from the sky. Remember, we've got a big overhang up here. So this is not getting hit with any actual daylight. It's like a softbox in the sky, and then it just leaks in here. But this is what it looks like naturally. So this would be the level all in here if we didn't take it away. But we are taking it away, and you can see it on the wall as well. You can actually see the screen door here. This is the opening of the screen door, and we just put it behind the bicycle, so you don't even really notice it. So in scampers, the guy opens the door. In scampers the little dog behind him without him noticing. I want you to look at this area here, right? You see how lit up that is? That's just because, well, number one, it's in the shot, so we can't get any closer and start to take that away. Would that be cooler if it was darker? Yes. Why? Because it would add more shape to the shot. It wouldn't be as flat in this middle ground. But there's no other way to get shape in there. So we have to shoot with it like that. Okay, but when we go in for the coverage, let's go into the tighter version of this shot. You see how much darker it is? Right? Brought it way down. Way down. You'll also see that this is almost a completely different color. You say, well, Patrick, why is it almost a completely different color? Because the sun absolutely disappeared. So now this is lit up with an HMI, right? There's a little 4K off here bouncing into a, whatever it was, a 12 by ultra bounce, and then bouncing up here to give us an appearance. But you can see that wall is nowhere near the same shade as this wall, right? This is movie magic. Like, oh, it doesn't match. Nobody cares. Make it look nice. What looks nice about this shot? I'll tell you what would not look nice about this shot. If this level was the same as over here, because then it just completely flattens it off. And this is, you know, this frame, we're talking, I don't know, maybe 50 frames in the final ad. Like he puts the key in, opens the door, we cut to, whoops, little dog running, right? And now you can see that's the door that in this shot over here, that's the door that the camera's in. So see, it's just a little bit elevated. I've got the camera on the ground on a longer lens shooting this shot. Well, now over here, again, camera. I think this one is actually on a baseball or on a little cricket ball. You just put a screw into a cricket ball and then you put that onto the camera. That way you can just have the camera on the ground on top of the little ball. And it gives you, if you're ever doing like handheldy stuff, it gives you a little bit of a handheld wobble, but the stability of sitting on a baseball or sitting on a cricket ball. Again, trying to get super, super low. So this puppy just comes sauntering along here and exits frame right. And now you can see that we've reversed. Remember how here we've got this big shadow area caused by our neg on this side, cutting away all the sun? Well, for here, we've done the opposite. We've pulled it down this way towards camera, and now this bit is lit up, and all of this is dark, okay? Also, there's the gaffer over here has got a little, like a little light gun that is just pointing at this puppy. So you'll see in every single shot this little puppy has an eye light. That's because being jet black, you could pump, 2,000 watts at this dog and it wouldn't look any different. It's going to be so dark and so down. All you get is a little tiny eye light. So in comes the puppy. Again, we dress this to, notice how like the tire's in a completely different spot than here. We're adding shoes, all sorts of mucking up the frame, and then trying to use that longer lens look to just compress the space. Why? We don't want to see that much of it. It's not super exciting. It's about the dog. We're going to compress it as much as we can. Okay, so that's our outside setup, right? Fairly easy. It's just the only shot that we had to light up was this one. And that was just because the sun completely disappeared and we didn't have, there was no other option. It's like, well, sun's gone. What do? Let's light it up and make it look a little bit like the shot that we had previously already gotten. And we had already gotten that one just by using neg, using the compression on the lens, and then trying to get as much stuff in there as we could and get nice and low and down. And again, little tiny things like if you move the camera, right? Like let's crab left with the camera, I don't know, an inch, right? You would lose this little line here. And if you lose this little line, this angled brick towards the door, all of a sudden it just flattens off so much more. So anytime you can get a little win of depth, it's like, let's just see just around this corner just a little bit. Those are those little 1% things you're trying to do on the day, which, I mean, you can think about them on the scouts, but it's really there when you're with the camera where you're like, how can I make this thing 1% better for doing almost nothing? Anytime you can get a free win like that, you take it. Okay, next up, let's do this hallway one real quick because it's just a sort of standalone. We actually did this on day 2. Only thing I wanted to talk about here is old mate's going to walk in here and he walks this way and then dog follows behind, right? So it's pretty simple. You stick a light out there. You don't blast it into the room this way so that the light goes everywhere. We're trying to make a line. Why? Because we want the contrast. Okay, so we have a little lamp out here. You put it up on the stand high enough so that it angles down. You've got this nice little exposure in here. And then this shot here, it's the exact same thing. It's just the opposite way. There's a lamp just off left here, creating more contrast here. And this is the angle that you play with, right? Because the more you bring this lamp this way, the more we go into the fireplace. It's like, well, do you like a lot into the fireplace? Do you like a little into the fireplace? These are the things that are up to you. I like just a little bit into the fireplace. Also, spoiler alert, this little guy right here, this water bottle, we're moving so fast while we're shooting these things that your boy brings a water bottle to set. I'm one of those guys. You bring your water bottle, and as you're walking around, I'm operating the camera too, you leave it in the middle of the set. And that's not a good thing to do. So don't do that. But that is in fact my water bottle that I just left there as like a little token. I do it in every ad. I'll just pepper in my water bottle just to be like, haha. That's like my signature. Like the guys in Home Alone, right? When they flood the house, when they go and they break in, this is my signature. Anytime you see a commercial with that water bottle somewhere in the background, your boy shot it. Only other thing to talk about here is, yeah, okay, you got to get the frame right and you got to get the size right. And yeah, we're going to put this little table in again to add a little bit of extra depth. And we don't want to be so low that we make too much of the table, and you don't want to be too high to where you completely lose it and then you flatten everything off. The little trick is behind us is windows, and they have curtains and they have shears on them. And they don't actually play in this because you don't see them. But they are a benefit to me as the person in charge of the look, because I can just quickly, as I'm sitting here at the camera, I can just open up the curtain and it lets in a little bit more ambient, right? Just like ambient skylight. The sun isn't blasting in this way. I think this is actually shot at nighttime. So it can't be shot at nighttime because I've got this, I'm leaking in this curtain stuff. Whatever. The sun is not on this side of the building. It's on that side of the building. So when I open up the shears or the curtains, I'm not getting direct light. I'm just getting soft ambient skylight. And it just like whatever level you want to set the walls to, well, then you just close or open the curtains. And that's like, to me, it's like gold. It's like anything I can do without asking anyone to do something. It's perfect because I know then it'll get done. And that is our look at our outside stuff. Now, this is probably this is certainly the most vanilla stuff from this ad, but it goes to show you that, I mean, you don't have to do much. right? This is really a story of, do we have a 20 by 12 of neg? How close can we get it to the frame? And then, uh-oh, we're out of light. We have to light it to recreate what we did before. Like, do we have to match it perfectly? No. Do we have to make it look good? Yes. Will people remember that more than matching? Yep. Okay. So do that. Okay, that's our look at the outdoor stuff. In the next videos, we're going to go over some of the interior stuff, which starts to look pretty good. Okay, that's going to do it for this one. Many thanks. We'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.